Chen's discovery kept him awake for 3 straight nights. The hegemony delegation had established their primary embassy in the repurposed United Nations headquarters, its spires now adorned with iridescent alien materials that shimmered in the New York sunlight. Security protocols around the building were impenetrable, a combination of human forces and Vorn guards with their unsettling 4-armed exoskeletons. "You look terrible," Dr. Sorokin said when Chen finally requested a private meeting in her office. The windows automatically tinted as he inserted a data crystal into her secure terminal. "I've been running pattern analysis on their communications," Chen explained, his voice low despite the room's advanced anti-surveillance measures. "It's not what they're saying that matters. It's what they're not saying." The holographic display filled with signal patterns, transmission gaps, and strange encryption bursts that coincided with hegemony ship movements around Jupiter and Mars. "They're positioning for something," Sorokin whispered, her brilliant mind already connecting the dots. "These transmission silences, they're operational blackouts." Chen nodded grimly. "Classic military preparation. The public negotiations are theater. I've identified 7 distinct communication networks among their ships, one for each species. They don't trust each other much, but they trust us less." Sorokin's gaze drifted to the window, where she could see the gleaming hegemony flagship hovering above Manhattan, its crystalline structure defying Earth architectural principles. What could they possibly want badly enough to risk interstellar conflict? They've shown us technology centuries beyond ours. "I believe it's us they want," Chen said, pulling up geological surveys. "Or more specifically, what's beneath us? These minerals they've been so casually inquiring about. They're not just rare on Earth. According to their own scientific database they've shared, these quantum-resonant elements are practically extinct in their controlled sectors of the galaxy." The implications hung heavy in the air between them. Earth, the cosmic equivalent of resource-rich territory, occupied by technologically disadvantaged natives. Humanity had seen this story play out countless times in its own bloody history. "We need to alert the Security Council," Sorokin said, already reaching for her secure communications device. Chen caught her hand. "Not yet. Their Murian telepaths are embedded with all major world leaders as diplomatic advisors. The moment we raise official alarms, they'll know." "Then what do you suggest?" Sorokin asked, her normally confident voice tinged with rare uncertainty. "We prepare quietly. I've identified potential allies among the hegemony. The Lyrians especially seem conflicted about their mission here. And we need to establish backup command structures, off-grid communications, hardened facilities." Outside the window, High Commander Zextrol's shuttle descended toward the embassy, its anti-gravity field creating ripples in the air. The Vorn commander had requested an audience with Earth's unified leadership to discuss the next phase of cooperation. "We have 6 months at most," Chen said, nodding toward the shuttle. "Whatever they're planning, that's when they'll make their move." Sorokin's expression hardened into determination. "Then we have 6 months to make sure humanity doesn't go quietly into the night." She secured the data crystal and stood up. "I'll attend this meeting with Zextrol personally. You assemble a team you trust implicitly. Scientists, military tacticians, people who can think unconventionally." As Chen turned to leave, Sorokin added, "And Michael, trust no transmission, no matter how secure it seems. From now on, we're playing a game whose rules we don't fully understand, against an enemy who's been winning for 50,000 years." The Prometheus station beneath the Rockies had once been designed to house government officials during nuclear war. Now it sheltered humanity's best hope for resistance. Dr. Sorokin stood in the command center, surrounded by hastily installed holographic displays showing real-time feeds from resistance cells worldwide. 6 weeks had passed since the hegemony attack. "Satellite imagery from our remaining covered platforms," said Colonel Rivera, sliding a data tablet across the table. "They're establishing processing facilities along the San Andreas fault line. Whatever they're mining, it's deep." Sorokin studied the images, noting the elegant efficiency of the alien excavation technology. Any word from Chen? Rivera shook her head. Nothing since the Beijing complex was captured. We have to assume. We assume nothing. Sorokin interrupted. Michael is resourceful. If anyone could survive capture, it's him. The conversation halted as the station's sensors detected movement at the camouflaged entrance 3 miles above. The security feed showed a bedraggled figure stumbling through the pine forest, clearly injured but moving with purpose. That's Dr. Patel from CERN. Sorokin gasped, immediately authorizing entry protocols. Get a medical team to Extraction Point Delta. 30 minutes later, the physicist sat wrapped in thermal blankets, his haunted eyes darting nervously around the command center as medics treated plasma burns across his left side. I escaped during transport between facilities, Patel explained, his voice hoarse. They've been gathering scientists, physicists, neurologists, geneticists, forcing us to work on something they call the Synchronicity Project. What is it? Sorokin asked, recording every word. They're obsessed with human brain function, specifically our neural plasticity and capacity for cognitive dissonance. He accepted a cup of water with shaking hands. The Murians can't fully control human minds like they can with other species. Our capacity to hold contradictory thoughts simultaneously creates what they describe as mental static. Sorokin leaned forward. They fear us because they can't control us. It's more than that, Patel continued. They've existed in harmony for so long they've lost something essential: the ability to innovate through crisis. Their technological development has plateaued. They're trying to understand how human minds create genuine novelty. Colonel Rivera's expression darkened. So we're lab rats. Valuable ones, Patel corrected. The Vorn wanted to simply eliminate us, but the Lyarans and others insisted our cognitive abilities represented an evolutionary leap they hadn't seen in millions of years. That's why they're keeping some population centers intact. They're running massive sociological experiments. The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival or resources. We had become the most valuable intellectual property in the galaxy. There's something else, Patel added hesitantly. Before I escaped, I saw Chen. He's alive, aboard the Lyran research vessel Luminous Inquiry. They've given him special status, not as a captive, but as a research subject with limited privileges. He managed to pass me a message. Patel pulled a small data chip from a hidden pocket. He said, "Tell Elena our weakness is our strength. The key is in the contradiction." Sorokin took the chip, hope flickering across her face for the first time in weeks. If he's gained the Lyran's interest, that's significant. They're the scientific heart of the hegemony, and historically the most likely to question Vorn military decisions. She turned to the assembled resistance leaders. We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting to prove humanity's worth to the galaxy. And our greatest weapon isn't technology. It's the very chaos of human thought they find so disturbing. The Lyran research vessel Luminous Inquiry represented the pinnacle of hegemony scientific achievement. Unlike the imposing military vessels of the Vorn, its crystalline architecture emphasized harmony and discovery. Chen had learned to navigate its labyrinthine corridors during his carefully monitored exercise periods. Chief Researcher Talus, a Lyran with shimmering skin that reflected light like living opals, had taken personal interest in Chen's case. Today, she escorted him through previously restricted areas, her multifaceted eyes observing his reactions. "Your species continues to confound our predictive models," she said, her voice melodic through the translator. The Vorn expected total submission within 30 days. Yet resistance cells grow more effective each week. Chen kept his expression neutral. "Humans adapt to circumstances. It's what we do." "More than adapt," Talus replied, stopping before a holographic display showing global conflict zones. "You thrive on adversity. Other species we've encountered either surrender immediately or fight conventionally until defeated. Humans employ asymmetric strategies that evolve faster than our tactical computers can analyze." The display showed a hegemony supply depot in what had been Seattle. 3 weeks ago, resistance fighters had penetrated its security using improvised technology that combined salvaged alien components with human ingenuity. The Vorn commander there implemented 17 security upgrades after the attack. Talus continued. Your resistance adjusted tactics 19 times in response, implementing solutions our engineers hadn't considered. It's unsettling. Chen suppressed a smile. Perhaps that's because your civilization values stability over innovation. Thousands of years of peace have left you unprepared for an enemy that embraces chaos. Talus's crystalline features shifted, indicating what Chen had learned was scientific curiosity. Is that how you perceive yourselves? Agents of chaos. We're survivors, Chen replied carefully. Every human civilization arose from struggle. Against nature, against rivals, against our own limitations. We've never known the stability your hegemony takes for granted. The conversation paused as they entered a secure laboratory. Inside, Chen saw something that made his heart race. Hegemony engineers dissecting captured human communication devices, including what appeared to be prototype quantum entanglement transmitters similar to those Dr. Sorokin had been developing. We've discovered something concerning, Talus said, gesturing toward the devices. Your resistance has developed communication technology that bypasses our monitoring systems. Technology that shouldn't be possible given your development level. Chen maintained his composure. As I said, humans adapt quickly. Too quickly, Talus responded, her tone shifting. Some among the council believe this validates the Vorn position, that humanity represents an existential threat to hegemony stability. And what do you believe? Chen asked, watching her carefully. Talus seemed to struggle with the question, her crystalline features refracting light in complex patterns. I believe we may have fundamentally misunderstood your species. The hegemony categorizes civilizations by technological achievement, resource utilization, and social cohesion. By those metrics, humanity appeared primitive. She moved closer, lowering her voice. But we failed to measure your adaptability. Your cognitive evolution rate. It exceeds anything in our historical records. Chen recognized the opening he'd been waiting for. Perhaps the Vorn see that as a threat, but couldn't others see it as an opportunity? Isn't that why your people have protected me from more invasive research protocols? Talus's eyes shifted color slightly. There are disagreements within the hegemony about humanity's potential. Disagreements that grow more pronounced each day. Your resistance continues to defy expectations. 16-year-old Zoe Okafor hunched over her workstation deep within Prometheus Station, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces as she integrated salvaged hegemony tech with human ingenuity. The room buzzed with quiet intensity as Dr. Sorokin entered, followed by a delegation of resistance leaders from 3 continents. Show them, Sorokin said simply. Zoe nodded, her eyes bright despite the exhaustion shadowing her face. The hegemony vessels use quantum-locked navigation systems that should be impossible to disrupt, she explained, projecting a 3-dimensional model of alien ship architecture. But they're programmers, not hackers. They build perfect systems, but never learn to break them. A Brazilian resistance leader leaned forward. And you can break them. Better, Zoe replied with a fierce grin. I can make them break themselves. She demonstrated with a simulation showing cascading errors through alien navigation networks. Their systems are designed to self-correct, but they've never encountered human-style adversarial inputs. I introduce small errors that appear as environmental anomalies, each one insignificant, but together they create failure points at predictable moments. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't just fighting back anymore. They were gaining an edge. We've scheduled the first test of Operation Shakespeare for tomorrow, Sorokin said. 3 hegemony transports carrying mining equipment to the Australian extraction zone. If successful, we'll expand to military targets next week. The station's communication officer interrupted with urgency. Doctor, we're receiving a transmission on the quantum network. It's from Chen. The central display flickered before resolving into Chen's face. He looked thinner but alert, his eyes darting occasionally off-screen. "Elena, I don't have much time," he said quickly. "The Lyrians have granted me limited network access, believing I'm helping analyze human psychological responses. What they don't realize is how much I've learned about their systems in return." "Are you safe?" Sorokin asked. "Safe enough for now. I've become something of a scientific curiosity." Chen's expression turned serious. "Listen carefully. The hegemony isn't the monolith they present to us. The 7 species maintain alliance through carefully balanced power structures and shared technological dependence. But that balance is shifting because of us." He glanced off-screen again before continuing. "The Vorn and Krill want humanity contained or eliminated. The Lyrians, however, have become increasingly fascinated by our cognitive adaptability. The other species fall somewhere between, afraid of our potential but reluctant to lose what we might offer." "How do we exploit these divisions?" one of the resistance leaders asked. "That's the key," Chen replied, his voice dropping lower. "Each species has evolved toward extreme specialization over millions of years. They're masters in their domains but lack cross-disciplinary thinking. Humans are unique in our capacity for cognitive integration across fields. We make connections they can't see." The transmission briefly destabilized before clearing again. "I've planted seeds among the Lyran researchers, questions about whether humanity's unique mental architecture might solve problems that have stymied hegemony science for centuries. They're listening." Sorokin leaned forward. "Michael, what exactly are you suggesting?" "A two-pronged approach," Chen said, his eyes alight with intensity. "While the resistance continues tactical operations, we need to demonstrate humanity's intellectual and creative value so convincingly that destroying us becomes unthinkable to at least some hegemony factions." The transmission began breaking up. "I have to go. Initial Operation Shakespeare. Brilliant concept. Zoe." He smiled briefly at the teenager who beamed with surprise at being recognized. "But remember, our ultimate victory won't come from fighting them. It'll come from making them fight each other over the right to work with us." The Belosian trade representative, Nextor, adjusted his translucent outer membranes nervously as he entered the abandoned subway tunnel beneath what had once been London's financial district. His 4-lobed brain processed multiple risk scenarios simultaneously, calculating the probability of this meeting being a trap. The Vorn would execute him immediately if they discovered this unauthorized contact with humans. Dr. Eleanor Blackwell, former Oxford economics professor and now Resistance Diplomatic Corps leader, stepped from the shadows. "You came alone. That shows trust. Or desperation," Nextor replied, his translator struggling with the emotional inflection. "The Vorn have seized control of 3 Belosian trading outposts in the Centauri sector, claiming security concerns. This exceeds established hegemony protocols." Blackwell nodded, maintaining a careful distance. "And you believe this relates to Earth?" "Everything relates to Earth now," the Belosian said, agitation causing his membranes to shift colors. "Your species has created unprecedented disorder in hegemony dynamics. The Vorn demand more resources for military operations here, taxing our commercial networks beyond sustainable levels." Blackwell saw the opening she had been instructed to watch for. "What if we could demonstrate an alternative economic model? One that increases prosperity without centralized control?" "Impossible." Next, Tor stated, though Blackwell noted the slight color change indicating interest. "The hegemony allocation system has maintained stability for millennia." "Stability, yes, but growth." Blackwell activated a small projector showing Earth's economic history. "Human markets appear chaotic, but they drive innovation through competitive pressure. Our decentralized trading systems created more technological advancement in 2 centuries than the hegemony managed in 2,000 years." The Belosian moved closer, multiple eyes fixed on the economic projections. "These growth patterns defy hegemony models." "Because your models value predictability over potential," Blackwell explained. "In human economics, temporary instability often leads to extraordinary leaps forward. Later that night, Dr. Sorokin received Blackwell's encrypted report in Prometheus Station. He took the bait, Blackwell confirmed. The Belosians are commercial opportunists at heart. The prospect of economic advantage is making them question Vorn leadership. Sorokin nodded with satisfaction as similar reports arrived from around the globe. In Australia, resistance diplomats had shown the ecological threat documented evidence of Vorn violations of conservation protocols on 17 worlds. In Mexico City, human artists had left the artistic eidolons speechless with improvisational performances that demonstrated emotional expression beyond anything their rigid cultural frameworks allowed. Chen was right, Sorokin told her assembled team. The hegemony appears unified because they've eliminated all external threats for millennia. But internal tensions remain, dormant, not resolved. Colonel Rivera studied the tactical display showing hegemony vessel movements. The Belosian and Thren ships are adjusting patrol patterns, creating distance from Vorn battle groups. They're hedging their bets. Operation Shakespeare's success had proven humans could hurt the hegemony militarily. 3 more Vorn vessels had experienced catastrophic navigation failures, thanks to Zoe's brilliant coding. But these diplomatic initiatives promised something more valuable: actual allies. We can't match their technology, Sorokin acknowledged, but we can exploit their psychological weaknesses. Each species views the universe through its evolutionary lens. The Vorn seek dominance, the Belosians profit, the Thren harmony with natural systems. They've been forced into artificial consensus for so long they've forgotten how to resolve genuine conflicts of interest. She pulled up Chen's latest transmission from the Lyran vessel. Michael reports the scientific cast is now openly questioning Vorn military decisions. 2 Lyran researchers have requested his direct input on long-standing technical problems, treating him as a colleague, not a subject. How long until the Vorn realize what we're doing? Someone asked. They already suspect, Sorokin replied. But their response will likely make things worse. Their instinct is always toward greater control, which will only intensify the tensions we're exploiting. The hegemony survived this long by eliminating external threats, not by resolving internal contradictions. The orbital battle above Rio de Janeiro unfolded in terrible, beautiful silence. From Prometheus Station's command center, Dr. Sorokin and her team watched as the massive Thren environmental protection vessel Verdant Sentinel positioned itself between the Vorn dreadnought and the vulnerable city below. The Belosian trade ships Prosperity and Mutual Benefit quickly joined formation with the Thren, their normally retracted weapon systems fully deployed. They're actually doing it, Colonel Rivera whispered, the tactical hologram reflecting off her awestruck face. They're opposing the Vorn directly. Across the hegemony communication channels, now regularly intercepted by resistance hackers, the Vorn commander's fury translated perfectly despite the alien syntax. Stand down immediately. Earth subjugation is authorized by the full council. The Thren commander's response came with remarkable clarity. The council authorized resource acquisition and security containment. It did not authorize planetary devastation against a cognitively advanced species. Rio de Janeiro contains 15 unique terrestrial ecosystems, integrating human and natural elements. Your proposed demonstration violates the conservation protocols of 37,429. Sorokin turned to Chen, who had finally reached Prometheus Station 3 days earlier after a harrowing escape from the Lyran vessel. This is happening sooner than we predicted. Chen nodded, his expression complex. The Lyrans aren't just passive observers anymore either. Look. He pointed to the holographic display where 3 sleek research vessels had taken position in high orbit, sensors clearly focused on the confrontation. They're documenting everything, building their case against the Vorn. The orbital standoff continued for 17 tense minutes before the Vorn dreadnought finally powered down its primary weapons and adjusted course away from the city. The Resistance Command Center erupted in cautious celebration, but Sorokin and Chen exchanged knowing glances. This wasn't victory. It was the beginning of something potentially more dangerous. The Vorn won't accept this challenge to their authority, Chen said quietly as they moved to a private tactical room. They've maintained control of the hegemony through military supremacy for 12,000 years. They'll escalate dramatically, which plays directly into our strategy, Sorokin replied. She activated a secure display showing the status of their most ambitious project. The neural pattern transmitter is ready. We've incorporated everything you brought from the Lyran ship about hegemony communication protocols. Chen studied the complex device with appreciation. Human ingenuity had transformed theoretical concepts into functional technology in weeks rather than the years it would have taken the methodical hegemony engineers. The Murians are the key, he said. Their telepathic abilities have made them the hegemony's communication backbone for millennia. If we can bypass their filtering and censorship functions, we can reach the ordinary citizens of all 7 species directly. Sorokin finished. Show them alternatives to Vorn dominance. Their conversation was interrupted as a junior officer burst into the room. Doctor, we're receiving an unprecedented communication. High Scholar Tellus of the Lyran Science Academy is requesting direct dialogue with you and Mr. Chen. They're offering to facilitate negotiations with the Belusian and Thrin leadership. Sorokin and Chen exchanged surprised glances. Their strategy of exploiting divisions had succeeded beyond their most optimistic projections. Accept the communication, Sorokin ordered, but proceed with caution. This could still be an elaborate trap. As the communication system initialized, Chen voiced what both were thinking. The real battle for Earth is no longer about territory or resources. It's about which vision of the future will prevail. Vorn dominance, or something entirely new. The neural pattern transmitter hummed with energy at the center of Prometheus Station's main laboratory. Its design represented an unprecedented fusion of human creativity and reverse-engineered hegemony technology. Dr. Sorokin, Chen, and a team of Earth's most brilliant minds made final adjustments while maintaining secure communication with their new allies among the Lyrans, Thrin, and Belusians. The Vorn have recalled their diplomatic cast to their command vessels, reported Colonel Rivera, studying incoming intelligence. They're preparing for a major military action, likely a full assault on remaining resistant strongholds. Then we're out of time, Sorokin said decisively. Initiate the transmission. Chen placed his hand on the activation console, then paused. Once we do this, there's no going back. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're potentially restructuring a 50,000-year-old galactic civilization. Sorokin met his gaze steadily. Humanity was never going to rejoin the universe quietly, Michael. Perhaps this was inevitable from the moment they arrived. With a nod, Chen activated the transmitter. Unlike conventional communication technology, the device targeted the underlying neural architecture common to all hegemony species despite their physical differences. What it carried wasn't simple information, but something far more powerful: experience. Transmission active, confirmed Zo Okafor, monitoring the system's performance. The Lyran support vessels are amplifying our signal as promised. We're reaching approximately 62% of all hegemony ships and outposts in the solar system. On screens throughout the command center, they watched as the transmission spread, not crude propaganda, but carefully structured experiential packets developed by human psychologists, artists, and philosophers working alongside sympathetic aliens. Each packet contained fundamental human concepts that had no direct equivalent in hegemony thought. Personal liberty, self-determination, creative dissent, democratic choice, the beauty of diversity. The Murians are attempting to block the transmission, Zo reported, fingers flying across her interface. But our frequency-shifting algorithms are working. They can't keep up with the randomized pattern changes. Reports began flooding in from resistance cells worldwide. In Delhi, Vorn soldiers had suddenly stopped their patrol, their neural implants overwhelmed by unfamiliar cognitive patterns. In Cairo, a group of krill workers had abandoned their excavation duties and gathered in what appeared to be spontaneous discussion groups. Most significantly, on the hegemony flagship in high orbit, Lowercase members of all 7 species were reported to be questioning direct orders from their superiors, something unprecedented in recorded hegemony history. "It's working better than we projected," Chen said, his voice reflecting wonder rather than triumph. "Their neural architecture is so specialized and rigid. These concepts are hitting them like a cognitive earthquake." Sorokin watched the cascading effects with profound understanding. For species that evolve toward perfect stability and predictability, the idea that chaos and contradiction can be productive is revolutionary. They've spent millennia eliminating uncertainty. We're showing them that uncertainty is where innovation happens. The most dramatic response came from the Mirians, whose telepathic capabilities had made them both privileged and imprisoned within the hegemony structure. As concepts of individual thought and privacy washed through their collective consciousness, reports describe them physically withdrawing from their command positions, their normally synchronized movements becoming individualized for the first time. "We should prepare for the diplomatic mission immediately," Sorokin decided, turning from the monitors. "The Vorn will respond with military force once they realize what's happening. We need to be aboard the Lyran diplomatic vessel before they can target this facility." "And the delegation?" Chen asked. Sorokin's expression reflected her unconventional strategy. "Not politicians or generals. Artists, scientists, philosophers, and children. We need to show them not just what humanity thinks, but how we dream." 5 years after first contact, the observation deck of the Earth vessel Concordia offered an unparalleled view of Jupiter's swirling storms. The ship represented a triumph of collaborative engineering. Human creativity merged with the technical precision of multiple former hegemony species. Dr. Elena Sorokin stood beside Michael Chen, both now serving as Earth's representatives to the newly formed Galactic Cooperative Council. "Hard to believe this all began with us trying to prevent an alien invasion," Chen said, watching a Lyran human research team working on navigation refinements across the deck. "Now we're preparing to venture beyond even the hegemony's mapped territories." Sorokin smiled, the lines around her eyes testimony to the exhausting years of conflict and negotiation. The Vorn never understood what they stumbled upon when they found Earth. They saw resources and a potential threat. They never imagined they'd found the catalyst that would transform 50,000 years of galactic history. A holographic communication materialized beside them. High Scholar Tellus of the Lyrans, his crystalline features now familiar and even friendly. "The council session begins in 20 minutes, friends. The Vorn representatives have finally arrived." This development still surprised many. After the collapse of the military leadership following the Neural Revolution, many expected the Vorn to isolate themselves entirely. Instead, a new generation of leaders had emerged, influenced by human concepts of representative governance, requesting readmission to interspecies dialogue. "We'll be there shortly," Sorokin confirmed as the hologram dissolved. A small group of human children ran past, playing with young Thren in a game that combined elements of both species' cultures. Nearby, a human musician collaborated with an Eidolon artist, creating harmonies impossible before their physiological differences were understood as complementary rather than incompatible. "Do you ever wonder if we did the right thing?" Chen asked quietly. "Dismantling the civilization that had maintained peace, however imperfect, for millennia." Sorokin considered the question with appropriate gravity. "We didn't dismantle it, Michael. We evolved it." The hegemony had achieved remarkable stability, but at the cost of stagnation. They eliminated uncertainty, but with it, they eliminated growth. She gestured toward the diverse activities across the observation deck. "What's emerging now contains more uncertainty, yes, but also more possibility." The ship's announcement system indicated their shuttle to the council station was ready. As they walked through corridors where humans worked alongside former hegemony species as equals, Shen reflected on how completely the conflict had transformed both sides. "The Mirians have been the biggest surprise," he noted. "From telepathic enforcers to the cooperative's most passionate advocates for cognitive diversity. Once they experienced true individual thought, they couldn't return to pure collectivism." Sorokin replied. but they've maintained their connection abilities while embracing individuality, something humans have struggled with throughout our history. The shuttle bay doors opened to reveal their transport, adorned with the new cooperative emblem, a spiral representing diverse paths converging toward a shared center. "You know what truly won the battle for Earth," Sorokin said as they boarded. "Not our technology or even our strategy. It was our greatest evolutionary adaptation, our capacity to change our minds, to hold contradictory ideas simultaneously and find new syntheses, to embrace paradox rather than resolve it." Chen nodded, understanding completely. The ultimate generalists in a universe of specialists. As their shuttle departed for the Council Station, where representatives of 17 species now gathered regularly, Earth shone blue and beautiful in the distance, no longer isolated, no longer targeted, but central to a new and vibrant interstellar community. The battle had been won not through conquest, but through transformation, proving that humanity's greatest strength wasn't force of arms, the force of imagination. Their victory hadn't been claiming Earth for humans alone, but opening it, and the galaxy beyond, to a future neither humans nor the hegemony could have created separately, a future born from the creative collision of profoundly different minds, finding unexpected harmony in their very differences.